Well, see, when you look at somebody like me, I grew up here. There's nothing you can tell me about Memphis that I don't already know.
There's nothing you can tell me about Memphis.
From the boardroom to the streets.
That I don't already know.
With Mike from Memphis, man. Together we can fix things. Really.
When you say, I want to be treated fairly, and I want a voice.
Yeah.
I want
He saw things weren't fair, so he chose to run for mayor. You get up and do something when you really care. It's Memphis 360.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
In the meantime,
It's Memphis 360.
In the meantime, in between time, we got folks shooting people up out the frame. Ain't nobody said a word. We've become accustomed to people dying in this city.
Yeah. It's Memphis 360.
Turning the TV on and the news and see our loved ones and see young people that are out of control. And now you see, okay. We talk about incarceration. We talk about the youth. We talk about giving them the ability. We talk about investing in young people and investing in the community. See, I hate ignorance. I hate when people make decisions about things and they make statements and they haven't done their research.
How can you fix the problem when you don't even know what the problem is?
We need some help in this city.
It's Memphis 360.
See, I hate ignorance.
It's Memphis 360. Man.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Memphis 360, the television show that we say we like to go from the boardroom to the streets. We say that you have to be able to relate to those individuals on the bottom or the top to be able to fix the issues and the woes here in the city of Memphis. And we like to educate. We like to avail ourselves and this show to those individuals in the city of Memphis that are making contributions, those individuals that are shakers and the movers, but also those individuals that are out in the streets making it happen. So we want to thank you for taking the opportunity to tune in because I think we have a really good show for you today. I just happened to work in General Sessions Courts and I asked my special guest, Miss Lois Lambert Ryan, Judge Lois Lambert Ryan, to come in and to talk to us and to just kind of tell us about some of the things that are happening in General Sessions Criminal Court and a little bit about her, because this is a young lady who has excelled here in the city of Memphis. And what makes me proud is the fact that she is a product of the city of Memphis. So therefore, she has a vested interest in the city of Memphis. Yeah, it is incumbent, and I think that she wants to see the city of Memphis excel because on a day-to-day basis, she is contributing to the well-being of the city. She's contributing to mentoring and counseling young people that are coming through her courtrooms, and you should see her in action sometime. If you get a chance, stop down 201 Poplar, lower level, Division 15. And you can pop in sometimes. Kind of COVID right now, and they still kind of controlling, want to control how many people are in the courtrooms. But you need to come down and see some of these young, innovative, creative judges that are handling the judicial system here in the city of Memphis. I always hear a lot of people complain about what's going on and all of that down in the courtrooms here in the city of Memphis. But I just want to tell you that there are a lot of good things. There are a lot of good people like Judge Ryan who really cares about the status of the city of Memphis and everything that is going on. So, Judge, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Good, good, good. I always get to go down and see her on the bench, man, and she is willing and dealing and making things happen down there in General Sessions courts. So, can you tell the citizens of City of Memphis and Shelby County a little bit about you?
Well, my name is Lois Lambert Ryan, and I'm your judge in General Sessions Division 15. I'm a native Memphian, a proud graduate of Hamilton High School. Love Hamilton absolutely, and those who are Hamiltonians will know why I say that. I attended college in Atlanta at Clark Atlanta University, and when I was there, it was known as Clark College. And now it's one of the major universities in Atlanta, Atlanta University Center. I'm proud to say that my daughter is graduating from my alma mater this year in May, so I have one daughter, and I sent her there because I felt Clark did good by me. It was a nurturing environment. After I came from Clark, I was a broadcast management major, and I like to tell people that.
Really?
Yes, I was a broadcast management major, and I went to school with Spike Lee. He had to come to Clark to take his classes.
Really?
Because we had the communications department. And so I tell people that to let them know that Clark just isn't a little small school in Atlanta. It's in the Atlanta University Center, and we share campuses or classes with students from other institutions, at least 3 to 4 other institutions in that Atlanta University Center. So I'm very proud to be a graduate of Hamilton, proud to be a graduate of Clark. I say that because after I came out of college, in my senior year, I was about to graduate, one of my professors, and I tell this story because it lets people know you can change and grow, and especially young people, that I was about to graduate, and he suggested that I go to law school.
Oh, wow.
Because I like to argue. And I already knew that my movies were nowhere near as good as Spike Lee's, even in college. So I called my grandmother and told her that one of my professors suggested that I go to law school, and she said that someone had called her and said they had a dream. And I said, well, I guess I need to take the LSAT. And so I did that, and I applied to several law schools. I wanted to stay in the area of communications. That was the initial goal. And I applied to the University of Iowa Law School and got accepted, got a scholarship, and attended.
So you went to law school in Iowa?
Yes, in Iowa City, Iowa. I'm a Hawkeye.
Oh,
a proud Hawkeye.
Really?
I had a relative that went to medical school there.
Okay.
And he said, why don't you apply? And I did, and got accepted and got scholarships and monies to attend. And I had another relative since that time that has gone to school there at nursing school. So Iowa has been a good thing for my family, and it was a good spot for me, and helped me really grow. And I learned a lot about being an attorney and the practice of law there.
Wow, wow. You know, so you are a product of the city of Memphis. So what local school had the privilege of having you to walk their hallways?
You didn't hear me. I said I graduated from Hamilton High School.
Well, that's why I didn't hear you, because it wasn't Manassas High School.
Because we love Hamilton, absolutely.
That's why I didn't hear you, because it wasn't Manassas High School, the oldest African-American high school in the city of Memphis. Thank you.
Yes. And
but Hamilton is a good school.
Hamilton is a good school. I was at Hamilton during the time of the building of the new school.
Okay.
I was the first class that went from, we separated in the 9th grade. So I was the first, I would like to think we were the first class that went from the 10th through the 12th in the new building, from the beginning to the end in the new building. And of course, I'm from South Memphis.
Right. I'm from South. She's from South Memphis, y'all. I'm
from South Memphis, and I'm proud to say that. And I'm just a girl from South Memphis. That's what I like to tell people, because I just had opportunities, pride instilled in me, and told you can do this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you want to do, and that's what I love about Hamilton.
Okay.
They took you and pulled you along. They didn't let you sit there.
Well, you know, it almost seems like it was a different time and place. You know, I think back in those days, we really had school spirit. We had community. We had a love for our communities, everybody. You know, it was almost like community rivalries, not necessarily in a bad way, but in who could actually champion their community the best. It was expected, you know, even though I came up in North Memphis, near Scudderfield and different things like that, it was expected that you went to college. You know, it was expected that you excel. It was expected that you took your family lineage to another level and that you did a little bit better. Because I had a lot of friends that I graduated with, went to Spelman, Morehouse, Clark University in Atlanta, or they went to Tennessee State, Mississippi Valley, Mississippi State, and you know, and every Wake Forest, Xavier, you know, and it was like, where are you going? Where are you going? What did you get into? You know, so that was definitely a good thing. So.
I think that's one thing about it. My high school class had some of the first bus students in for integration purposes.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a different experience, but it was still nevertheless a good experience. Our class is still close. I had dinner with classmates last night that were from out of town.
Okay.
We gather. The class of 76, we gather.
Oh, we
gather frequently.
You hear that, 76?
We support each other.
Right.
We love each other. We funeralize each other.
Yeah.
We celebrate births and graduations and keep up with how we're feeling, how well we are in this era, in this time. And we just got some people that care about each other. We travel together. You know, so it was a lot of us.
Right.
And it is a big community, and that's why we love Hamilton. Absolutely.
Okay. Hey, the number to call is 244-6874, 244-6874. This is Memphis 360, television show where we go from the boardroom to the streets, and we have the pleasure of having the Honorable Lois Lambert Ryan. Ooh, that's like a tongue twister right there. But we have the pleasure of having the Honorable Lois Lambert Ryan, Judge in Division 15 of Criminal Court General Sessions. And if you got any questions for her during this interview, please don't hesitate to call. The number is 244-6874, 244-6874. And I'm sure that if there are questions that she can answer, she probably will. You know, there are some things that may be off limits. We don't want to talk about no cases or anything like that. But if you're talking about policy procedures or different things that can happen, or if you're trying to navigate the judicial system when it comes to the criminal court within General Sessions, then I'm quite sure that Judge Lambert Ryan would be more than happy to answer those kinds of questions. And we're just trying to, you know me, I just like to get them down on our level so that you can see who the person is, because, you know, these are individuals that are representing our community, and I will tell you that it is amazing to see Judge Lambert Ryan in action in her courtroom. She's all over the place doing all kinds of stuff, making all kinds of judicial decisions and all of that, you know, and really handling that courtroom. And from my perspective, and I can just speak from my perspective, anytime I've went in a courtroom, it's been from a perspective that she definitely has the citizens' interests at heart. She's definitely operating within the confinements and the scope of the law, and she's trying to make sure that everything is done in decent and order manner. So that's what I have seen in Division 15 in my little tenure there, because I didn't know anything about the courtrooms, to be perfectly honest. I was always on the law enforcement end, arresting individuals out in the streets and different things like that. But now I get to see the other side of the coin, what happens after these individuals are arrested and they have to answer for some of the crimes that they have possibly committed. Now, tell us a little bit, what made you want to become a judge?
Well, I've been on the bench for 20 years.
Wow.
And as and people may remember me, some of the voters may remember me before I was on the bench.
Okay.
When I first came to the Public Defender's Office, I was first at Rural Legal Services in a fellowship program straight out of law school in Appalachia. I like to tell people that because I went from Atlanta to Iowa into Appalachia and then back home to Memphis.
Appalachia.
Yes, at Rural Legal Services in a fellowship program. And all of those things, of course, shape and mold you as an individual and as an attorney. But when I came back to Memphis, I decided that the only job I really saw that I wanted was at the Public Defender's Office. And so while at the Public Defender's Office, I handled all types of cases, from the misdemeanors that I preside over to the felonies I conduct hearings with, to jury trials, to murder cases. I've kind of done the gambit appeals. But one of my mentors was saying, you need to be a judge. You should aspire. And I was quite flattered. But during that era, when I came to the Public Defender's Office, and about 1985, there were not that many women that were practicing law. There were a few. It was nowhere near as many. And not that many women on the bench.
Right.
Definitely not that many women of color. So I set about my way of practicing law. I was trained even at legal services, and I was a broadcast management major. So I had the ability, I thought, to persuade. And that's what litigation is about, the ability to communicate. I'd worked at legal services with the indigent on the civil side, different people from all walks of life. So Public Defender's Office was a good fit for me. I progressed from doing misdemeanors as an assistant public defender to doing felony prelims, from felony prelims to jury trials, and from jury trials in criminal court to doing capital murder cases. And I did that for approximately about 10 years, having handled a multitude of cases, and I guess you probably were on the force then during that time, possibly.
20 years ago, yes.
Yes, well, that was more than 20 years ago. I've been on the bench 20 years. But
what year? What year?
This was probably in the early 90s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s, I was probably in Korea or in, well, early 90s, Germany or Kuwait.
Well, the reason I say that is that you work a lot, even on the defense side, with police officers. Right. And you don't work with them as well as far as you see them. You communicate with them in the courtroom. You're looking at their work product when you're a defense attorney. Today, I see police officers and see officers every day because they're subpoenaed in for hearings. And you get to, in the practice of law, one of the skills I think that I developed early, and it may not have anything to do with law school, it's the ability to listen to people, to sympathize and empathize with them. The kind of work I did was for several years was difficult work, but it was very rewarding. And you say, how is it rewarding representing people that kill others? But it was rewarding in that I made sure that the system worked for everyone. I guaranteed persons' rights. I'm proud to say I don't have anyone that's on death row that has my name by it. That is a win. I tried several cases, but to try a death penalty case was to lose one. So because of the nature of the offenses. So they're difficult cases, but there weren't any women doing that. And I felt like if my desire was truly to be a judge, that I needed to do the difficult work to prove that I had the skills, to prove that I was a good litigator and a good understander of the law, that I knew how to work with people. It's not just one side, it's just not the defendant you work with. You end up working with of course, the prosecutor. You work on a team doing capital work with the investigator, and you have a mitigation specialist, and you have doctors, you have a variety of different people. And then ultimately you work your case,
Right.
and you have to work with the prosecutor and persuade the prosecutor
Right.
to give you something of settlement that will save someone's life.
Negotiation.
And sometimes you even have to talk to the family of the victim. I reflected back on that, that how I have talked to them about sparing someone's life that took the life of their loved one, and setting up not necessarily rapport, but trying to get a clear understanding with them about how they feel, and let them know that I understand it, but give someone else a chance in life that did something that was totally wrong and harmful. So it was a learning experience as just growing as a human being. That's why I said empathizing and sympathizing,
Right.
because it's two sides of understanding that's needed. So I enjoyed the work immensely. I enjoyed the science part of it. I loved to go to the medical examiner's office.
Really?
Yes, and do the science.
Wow.
Ballistics, forensics. It was very interesting, very stimulating mentally, those particular areas of study.
Okay.
And I know it sounds strange,
Yeah.
but I'm not going in viewing bodies, but while they're doing autopsies,
Okay.
but discerning causes of death and the affects, and making sure that all stones are unturned when you're defending someone, making sure stories match up.
I like that. That I like.
Making sure, because when someone is saying they're going to take someone's life, that is the ultimate punishment. And if that's going to be the ultimate punishment, everything must be done to guarantee that all rights are protected.
Oh wow! So as a public defender, because I know there are a lot of indigent individuals here in the city of Memphis, and they depend heavily upon the public defender's office. I think Mayor A.C. Were you in the public defender's office when Mayor A.C. Warden was there?
Yes, Mr. Warden appointed me.
Oh, okay.
And hired me.
Okay. Well, good. During your tenure as a public defender, what do you think was your most rewarding case? Can you remember, or can you put your hat on one case that stands out in your mind that either you were able to vindicate someone, or you were able to bring to light exactly what happened?
I have some celebrated cases,
Okay.
I would say. I don't know whether they were trophy cases or anything like that, but I have some celebrated cases, some that are still being discussed. That I was involved with the J.D. murder case, which is a multiple homicide case, one of my first cases, and that was the first time the MPD used video.
Oh.
They did video crime scene. That's when video technology was just getting started. So they videotaped the crime scene, which was really interesting. Matching it up with the corresponding evidence, and what was so interesting, additionally what was interesting, it was Amerasians, persons that had settled here, that spoke different dialects, Cambodian, the Malagos, and they were Vietnamese, and so I say they were from, I think it's pronounced Laos, but in that part of the country, part of the world. So that was very interesting, and the understanding the culture, understanding the importance of culture amongst people. Even regional culture, and I grew from that, understanding everybody is not like everybody in South Memphis. People from North Memphis and South Memphis are different, and of course these individuals were immigrants, and so their culture was different, and so it was up to me to try to explain certain aspects of their culture to get the acquittal that I got.
Wow.
So I think that was really important and very rewarding. And also the Central Garden murder case has been on several shows, and it's been a play, and I've done an interview, I guess as late as 2 or 3 years ago, because I've obtained an acquittal the gentleman I was representing, the persons that were first tried for the cases, my partner and I obtained an acquittal. The co-defendant was acquitted. And subsequently, I guess about 10 years later, information came up about who actually may have done the killing. And so that was very interesting in that case, that it's still somewhat ongoing. People are just starting to serve time for that offense, that homicide. It was pretty bad.
Wow.
It was an interesting story about addiction and how addiction, it doesn't matter whether it was in Central Gardens or whether it was in North Memphis, about drugs and cocaine and crack and families that suffer through the addiction. It's not just the addict, and that was what that case was really about. And these people were literally from one side of the track to the other, literally.
Wow.
Literally.
One side of the track or the other.
Yes, and so I've had some cases that scientifically I've enjoyed. I had someone that had what they call multiple personality syndrome. That's what we call it now, but it's a dissociative disease, a disorder. And he was accused of killing multiple prostitutes.
Wow.
And I represented that individual for several years before we were able to get a settlement in the case. He is probably still behind bars now.
Wow. We have Judge Lois Lambert Ryan in the house, y'all. The number to call is 244-6874, 244-6874. Judge Lois Lambert Ryan is the judge in Criminal General Sessions Division 15, and she is doing an amazing job down there in Division 15. I advise you, go down there and take a look and see how she's handling those cases. So can you tell them a little bit about your court and your courtroom and what types of cases that you handle and different things like that?
Yes, the General Sessions courts in Shelby County are divided into two sections. One is the civil, which is Division 1 through 6, okay. And then there's 7 through 15, which handle criminal matters. That's because of the population in Shelby County being so large. In some counties, even in Davidson County, the judges handle both civil and criminal. But in Shelby County, we have sections or divisions of court that are designated for certain things. Even on the criminal side, we have some specialty courts or designated courts. Right. We have the specialty court everybody probably thinks about first is domestic violence. Okay. We have a mental health court. We have a veterans court. We have a drug court. We have an environmental court. So we have a lot of different areas of specialties, but all these courts have general criminal jurisdiction. I have had different designations. Okay. I did compulsory attendance for several years, which I found very rewarding.
Okay, what is that?
When the parent doesn't send a child to school.
Oh, compulsory attendance.
Compulsory attendance. Okay. The child is charged with truancy. The parent is charged with violation of the compulsory attendance law. Okay. And with that was very rewarding, and I discovered a lot dealing with parents and the needs of the children and the needs of families. Right. Not to down mothers, not to down families, but and not to down our educational system. Okay. That's how the courts got pulled in, because kids were just missing school. Wow. It was projected that if you miss a certain number of days in school, you could not pass. Truancy. And but it started off with just a select number of schools, and it was a pretty successful program. But then it was because there were so many middle schoolers and high schoolers committing crimes during school hours. Yes. And as the program developed and more schools and more focus was made in the program, it was discovered that kids from the very beginning were not taught the importance of going to school. Right. We didn't miss school. growing
I
up.
love going to school.
We love going to school.
I love
And so
going to-
kids were not getting a chance to be exposed to the funness or the joy of education.
That's where everything was happening.
I know, and but it starts off at kindergarten.
Yeah, I
we
love
had
going
kids
to
that were missing 40 and 50 days of kindergarten at the beginning of the school year.
Wow. That's a parent problem.
Well, it's a parent problem, and that's what I came to realize, that parenting is just not necessarily natural to all persons.
Okay.
We have generational issues.
Okay, yeah.
And generational examples from one parent says, oh, well, we cut classes. Well, you can't cut classes. Now it's considered an absence. You have to enroll. You have to go to school. The school system gets paid to function by the number of kids they have in school per day.
Right.
You have to go to school to meet the minimum requirements to be able to pass.
Right.
And what I wanted people to understand in the process, especially mothers, the school system has a lot there you may need. They have psychological
Resources.
Resources.
Yes.
They have psychological services. They have educational resources with learning disabilities, or kids are gifted by just the opposite. I mean, uniforms, food. At one point in time in Shelby County, kids were getting breakfast, lunch, dinner, and aftercare.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, send your kid to school. You don't want, you got a built-in babysitter that's educating your kid. And they're growing, and they're loving the joy of education.
And a lot of times, believe it or not, those meals that those children were receiving at school, because I even remember when we were coming up, they had breakfast. You could actually go to school early, get breakfast in school.
Yes.
So therefore, when you were attempting to learn and be educated, you didn't come to school on an empty stomach, because you never know the circumstances surrounding some of these young people that are coming to school. And that's how come I said, and I did say it was a parenting problem, and you were right. Because of some generational issues and different things like that, a lot of these young people may not know how to be parents, or they don't have the wherewithal to know that there are resources available to them in those schools so that it can help them to, because I always tell a story. I was poor and didn't know I was poor, when I was coming up, because there was so much love, and like I said earlier, it was expected. I don't care how poor we are. The road to success is education, number one.
Yes.
So that you can be able to go out into the world and be able to deal with all kinds of people on their level, and to make your mark and make your way in society and become a productive part of society and contribute to the growth and development of your community and different things like that. So you're definitely right in that regard. So now let's get back to general session. So what do you, this is Judge Lois Lambert Ryan, Division 15, General Sessions Courts. So what types of cases do you handle? I know you told us about the compulsory, but
Well, the compulsory is now in juvenile court. They paired the compulsory with the truancy.
Okay.
So now it's been moved to juvenile court. The district attorney general decided to do that.
Okay.
So now I just have a general criminal division.
Right.
The courts handle misdemeanors,
Okay.
felony preliminary matters. We have preliminary hearings. We have trials.
Okay.
We do felony arraignments.
Wow.
We oversee the judicial commissioners who run a 24-hour operation.
Right.
You can be an our administrative duties rotate from judge to judge. In the last 2 years, we have really been concerned, and I have been concerned for the last several years, about the administration of justice, how the system is working, how, and people don't think about that. You think about people going to jail, but there is a process. And I tell people I'm a process person. How can we make this work smoother? How can we make this work properly and to the benefit of the public?
Right.
And that this experience, it may be a dark one, is one that still works smoothly. So that has been a concern, and for me to sit back, and I've been in the process in the system for so long, working in the public defender's office,
Right.
to see it progress. We have technology, and technology has changed a whole lot.
Yes, it has.
The implementation of different things in the courtrooms, getting the equipment in and taking advantage of it, and understanding how technology and law and evidence relate together. I've been focused in a lot on that the last few years, trying to keep up, because it's ever evolving, ever changing.
Yes.
Before, just looking at a videotape, from a DUI,
Right.
it's taken in the car.
Right.
We all would sit in front of a little box, breathing everybody's air. We're close. You're the closest person I've been to today.
Yeah,
We can't
yeah.
even get close to each other
Right.
to do those type of things. So because of the pandemic, we luckily enough we're evolving in the courts to keep going. And I like to tell people, the General Sessions criminal courts have not closed during the pandemic.
Yes. I can vouch for that.
The only time we were closed was a snow day and when the water went out.
Right. They wouldn't let us back in the building.
They wouldn't let us back in the building, but because of technology, those that were in the jail at that time still got an opportunity to be arraigned
Video arraignments.
and for their cases to be set, and the system still worked. They were able to post bonds. Things still flowed and functioned because we were being prepared.
Right.
For that day, actually, for that day to occur, for something like that to happen. But the Supreme Court mandated that the General Sessions criminal divisions remain open because we had people in jail.
Because people have to have their due process.
They had to have their due process.
Yes.
And so I was asked by a district judge that's over the criminal courts at the time to write the plan. Each court had to write, divisions of court had to write a plan for their section about how are we going to do the pandemic. And so it was something that no one knew about. We had no idea about, and it was a day-to-day growth of things in the volumes of people, the movement of people, even sitting down, how people sat.
Wow.
We just got relieved of the 3 feet distance in the courtroom between individuals, how each division of court chose to work. The District Attorney General, we worked closely in the courtrooms, and the people were coming in and out and moving, and it's a people building. How that had to change,
Right.
and keep the courts open and keep the system working, and I was glad to be part of the decision-making processes day to day, because we were evolving and changing day to day.
And I don't think a lot of people realize, and I think they take for granted that 201 Poplar, everybody know what 201 Poplar is, and they know what the lower level is, because if you come down there any morning about 9 o'clock, it's going to be packed with individuals that have to be processed, or individuals that are being called into the justice system to have whatever ruling rendered, or to have their day in court so that they can be heard. But I don't think, and I even took it for granted prior to me working down there, at the amount of work that goes into ensuring someone is afforded their due process, because just like Judge Lambert Ryan was speaking, even during the snow days, and that's one thing I do want to commend you guys on, and then the amount of cases that you're handling, that blows my mind too when I look at, because first of all, General Sessions courts down in the lower level is Shelby County General Sessions Courts is one of the biggest court system, or is the biggest court system in the state of Tennessee, and I don't think a lot of people know that. And the amount of cases that you guys are processing down there, and I have to take my hat off, you guys are definitely handling those cases and ensuring that to the best of your ability, that everybody is getting the opportunity to have their due process. And I think a lot of people take that for granted, and they don't know what goes into all of that, but when I look at your courtroom and Judge Anderson's courtroom and Casey and everybody else that's down there and all of the things that they're doing to ensure that the citizens of Memphis, the citizens of Shelby County, unfortunately, I don't want to ever have to go before one of these lovely people. I don't. I can say up until this point, I've never had to go into the court system, and I hope that I never have to. The number to call is 244-6874, 244-6874. We have Judge, I keep wanting to say Judge Lois Lambert Ryan of Division 15, General Sessions Criminal Court in the building today. And she's telling us about General Sessions and just a lot of the things that she has done and what does it take to become a successful judge in this city, because it's a lot of people, I'm finding it's a lot of people running for judge right now. Everybody's throwing their name into the hat and all of that good stuff. But I'm also in being down in the lower level and also over on the civil side in my other capacity. I see that it takes a lot. It takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of experience. It takes compassion for people, but also wanting to hold individuals accountable to the law. And you have to be able to do all of those things to be a successful judge, and especially in Shelby County, because you're going to be handling a lot of cases. When I see some of these dockets are 200 cases on the docket or 250, and I ain't gonna call the judge's name, but one guy be having like 280 cases on the docket, and I'd be like, wow, that's a lot of cases to try to handle at one time. But anyway, they're juggling that and they're doing those kinds of things down there. So what do you think is a contributor to the increase in crime in the city? You sitting on the bench and you seeing all of these cases coming through, and you know, I know that there's no be all, see all, do all, but from your perspective, what do you think contributes to a lot of the woes that we're seeing in the city of Memphis? And I say that, and I'm gonna preface it with, I was watching the news yesterday morning. Carjackings have increased 60% in this city. Robberies of business have increased almost 80% in this city year to date, this day, as opposed to the same time last year. So what would you attribute some of that to from what you're seeing?
And that's the big question. That's the $1 million question.
Okay.
I've thought about it since I've been in this system for so long. We see generational shifts. We had a things generation. You want things and you work for things.
Right, right.
Then we have now we're in a now generation. They want it now. They don't want to wait for it. They don't want to work for it. So we have a now, we want things generation. And so the thing that's so interesting to me in the trends, and I try to keep up with the trends.
Right.
They're looking at crime and patterns. What's so interesting is we have a lot of robberies. We have a lot of carjackings. And I was sitting in court and I was asking the officer, well, you have all these car thefts and carjackings. What do they do with the cars? Everybody doesn't get their car back. And I'm thinking they're taking them to a chop shop. No. Well, they just drive them till the gas runs out. And then they go get another car.
Exactly.
In my neighborhood, about 5 blocks from me, or 3 or 4 blocks from me, a gentleman was driving a Toyota Tercel. And he was driving back from a high school spring fling in Murfreesboro, where he'd gone to see his son play. And he was driving, not paying attention to who was following him. He's in a Toyota Tercel. He pulls into his driveway. He sees a car drive past. And the car stops, turns around. He's getting his things, getting out the car. And when he turns and looks at his door, there's a pistol in his face. They took his Toyota Tercel.
Wow.
So it's not, and they took his cell phone. They didn't even think they'd go in his pockets and tell him to get his wallet. He said he didn't have any money, but they found a cell phone and pinged in Davidson County the next day.
Nashville.
But the car wasn't with that. They found the car somewhere because it ran out of gas. They didn't want a Toyota Tercel. This happens so frequently. So you say, what causes this? I don't know. I think we got to go back to the root. We got to go back to the house.
Okay.
We got to go back to homes.
Wow.
We got to grab our families and mothers and fathers and grandmothers and uncles. We got to grab our children. We got to grab our children. We cannot expect someone else to rear our children and teach them right and wrong. We cannot uphold our children in the wrong.
Exactly.
We cannot uphold our children in the wrong. We want to cry, and tears are good, and tears are expected when you are mourning. But don't be mourning and not cry for the next person who's died, and you're crying because your child going to jail. We got to empathize. We got to understand. We got to live with a little grace.
Right.
And we got to pull our kids in. We always wanted, just like it was expected for you and your neighborhood and community to do some things.
Yes.
It was expected here.
Yeah.
But those in my neighborhood in South Memphis, but those expectations aren't the same now.
Yeah.
And it always wants to be an excuse. We have to teach our kids about working. That it's okay to work.
You know, this is the era of the Great Resignation too.
I know. We got to teach people to work.
Yeah.
And the pandemic is really almost biblical in nature, and all the things that it's affected in the February. This is 2-year anniversary of the pandemic. As far as it affected the courts in March
You're
of
right,
2020.
March, yeah, that is correct.
March of 2020. And I can remember talking to our lead commissioner, Lee Wilson, what are we going to do? And we didn't know what was in store.
Right.
We had no idea what was in store. We've evolved and grown and lived, and the government has helped us, but the government has kind of hindered us because we can't get anybody to go back to work.
Exactly.
So we got to teach the work ethic, and we got to have one ourselves. And we got to teach a work ethic, teach about working and a work ethic, meaning that it's good to work and you should do your best and be the best. You may start at the bottom, but if you're working and consistent, hard work pays off.
Wow.
Hard work pays off. People are asked a question every day in regards to appointment of attorneys. Is there anything that you have that keeps you, prevents you from working? I got a conviction. That'll stop you from working. And I tell them where you can go find a job. There are folks that hire convicted felons. We don't even have a box in Shelby County anymore. In Shelby County government, you can come get a job.
Wow.
They're looking for workers everywhere. I don't want to fire. They paying $15 everywhere.
I see $17. I think Amazon.
And the bonus signings, and so it's about the desire to work and teaching our children that work is good. Working on a job is good. It starts out a future, and so our families, we got to grab our kids and we got to hold them. We got to educate our kids and tell them how important education is, and the way to make education work for you is to be involved in the educational process of your child. One thing that I required when I was doing compulsory attendance is for you to go to the parent-teacher conference. Don't get mad and come up to the school when somebody's bullying your child and shooting the crowds.
Wow.
If you're in the school, going into the schoolhouse, seeing what's going on with your kid on a regular basis and having communications with your child at home, communications with the teacher, communications with the principal, if they know you, then a lot of problems could be settled. A lot of problems could be settled. It is so disheartening when I have mothers that are on my docket because they got into some children's mess. And these days, when they get involved, there's always guns and firearms.
Yeah, yeah.
We have too many of our children dying. Too many of them.
That is for sure.
Too many of them shot. You know, they have a phrase for it. Adverse child acts, adverse child something or another. It's an acronym for it. And I used to laugh about it, saying, you know, you have these adverse things that happen in a child's life, so it develops their personalities, and it somewhat explains why they may be the way they are. I get it. But we got to get the basis right, the base right. And that's the family. Whether it's mama, or uncle, or grandmother. We have a lot of grandmothers raising kids. But that's always been the case.
Yes.
We have a lot of young grandmothers. We have a lot of young mothers. So we really have to get into the family structure. It's all right to tell your kid, play in the backyard and not the front yard.
Right.
It's all right to tell your kid, it's all right to know who your kid's friends are.
Yep.
It's okay to tell your kid, no, you don't need to you can't play with them.
Yeah.
You need to know who your friends are and who their people are.
Now that I think about it, you know, in our younger years, I know in mine, my movement was controlled.
Exactly.
You know, my socialization was controlled to a degree because they definitely, you know, it was nothing to say, okay, who's that boy parents? You know,
exactly.
Where he come from? You know, who
and
he belongs to?
Why are you going? You're going to nobody's house.
Yeah, don't go in nobody's house. Don't do that. You can stay outside, but don't go in nobody's house. You know, before we got about 11 minutes left, I wanted to get into this too. We have Judge Lois Lambert Ryan of Division 15 General Sessions Courts in the House, and we're just kind of chopping it up a little bit, just kind of talking about where she's from. You know me, I want you, the citizens of the city of Memphis and the citizens of Shelby County, to get to know some of these individuals just a little bit better and not just see them on the bench as a judge, even though she has worked very hard to attain that prestigious position. But guess what? These are also individuals that are products of the city of Memphis, products of the city of Memphis school systems. So young people that are out there, you too have the ability to attain the prestigious positions like Judge Lois Lambert Ryan. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes college. It takes drive, determination. It takes perseverance. And I know a lot of times it's hard to get young people to understand that concept. Because as she said earlier, this is more of the now generation. You know, I want it now. But I always tell the story of when I was going to college, I became celibate for a while, you know, even as a young man, because I had goals. I had things that I wanted to attain, and a lot of girls would come up to me, "Are you gay? Because you're not out there." And I'm like, and I don't have people, and you know me, I don't have a problem telling the story. And I'm like, no, I just have. I was working 3 jobs because I wanted an apartment, and I was also trying to gain an education at that particular time. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices on the front end so that you can actually benefit on the back end. But I wanted to talk about this a little bit too. We did a no-cost court. Clerk Joe Brown opened up a office down in Southbrook Mall, and we did a no-cost court or expungement clinic out at Southbrook Mall. And I want to thank you publicly for being a part of that. They actually brought the courts out to Southbrook Mall, and Judge Lois Lambert Ryan was one of those individuals. And that goes to show that she cares about the community. She was one of the individuals, her, Judge Anderson, Judge Lucchese, they came out to Southbrook Mall and working in conjunction with a team of attorneys who had already pre-screened individuals, because we talk about these expungement clinics, but it's a whole lot to them. Just because you go to an expungement clinic and you get some of your records expunged don't necessarily mean that it's going to clear your file, because you still may have fees left, fines, different things like that. But you guys were gracious enough to come out to Southbrook Mall, and you guys waived a lot of the fines and fees so that these individuals, when they left there, they were totally absolved of all responsibility when it came to the fines and fees, because a lot of times that stopped a lot of these young people from going a little bit further. And that's a whole nother subject, because once you finish in general sessions, you still have to go over to Chancery Court if you want your voters' rights restored and different things like that. It's a process that you have to work on, but it is possible and you can definitely do it. But Judge Lois Lambert Ryan, without hesitation, because we have a public affairs guy, Lawrence Johnson, and he's always out there trying to find stuff to do in the community with the permission of Clerk Brown to bring to the community those things that definitely are going to truly help to restore a lot of these young people. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And we actually had fun. I actually enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just clear up. I was trying to think of an acronym. It's Adverse Childhood Events.
Okay. ACE.
ACE. Yes, but there are three things that go on those clinics.
Okay.
And that's not my first clinic.
Okay.
I went to the very first clinic at Bloomfield. I've been to, if you ask me, I shall come.
Okay.
There are three things that go on in those clinics. To get something expunged from your record, like if it's dismissed, you have to request it under the law.
Okay.
It's just not sui sponte or automatically done, because that's not the way the law is written.
Wait a minute, ma'am. Sui sponte. What?
Spontaneously.
Sui sponte.
Spontaneously.
Okay.
So that's if something is dismissed. Then in the last legislative sessions, we have had opportunity to,
Go ahead, sir. You're on Memphis 360. We have Judge Lois Lambert Ryan. Go ahead.
No doubt you have. I've been looking at her for about 40 years almost. This is Jennings Bernard, Judge. How you doing?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Happened to turn on my Facebook page and look up, and guess who I saw? That was my friend, Judge Ryan. So I said, let me call in just to say hello and drop a few words as it relates to our youth and our community.
Okay.
And they said that charity begins at home and spread abroad. Until we start doing like the big mamas and the grandmamas and the granddaddies and the pawpaws, until we get that back and have that flow going again, then and only then will we see a turnaround. But the old people used to say, babies having babies can't teach babies. At some point, you're going to have to educate our young ladies. We're going to have to educate our young men to understand you haven't reached maturity yet to be a mother or to be a father. Grandmothers are taking care of their grandbabies. Grandfathers are stepping up, trying to raise their grandsons.
Right.
It's time for us to wake up as a community and realize that we have a problem in our community. And how do we solve problems? We come together as a community and do the same.
Right. Okay. And thank you so much for that, sir.
And have a wonderful evening. Jennings has known me from whence.
This is Mr. Jennings Bernard.
He's known me from whence
Yes.
as a young lawyer.
Yes.
And thank you for calling in. And reaffirming what I was just saying, we got to get back to family.
Right.
We got to get back to family.
Right.
Family and community.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Right.
But one thing to bolster families, we were talking about cost clinics and expungements.
Right.
there are three things that go on. One is getting cases cleared from your record that automatically can be cleared upon your request.
Okay.
I tell people every day when I announce a dismissal to go down to the clerk's office and have this removed from your public record.
Okay.
And it's just a sheet of paper. You walk down the hall, you come back, give it to my bailiff, I sign it, and it goes in. The next thing that goes on in those clinics is looking at costs and where the persons were unable to pay the costs. That was done at a particular clinic, but that is being done weekly. Every Wednesday, I have a dismissal docket dealing with costs or old judgments.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that. Okay.
That was one of the processes I set up.
Okay.
That motions were, a law change came in about the driving on revokes.
Correct.
And when that law change came in, there was a lot of people who had a lot of costs that was holding back their licenses. And some of the cases were old judgments. For some kind of reason, the word got out, and people started, especially persons that were inmates, started sending in motions asking that this cost be removed because, of course, it affects their parole eligibility, I guess. I'm not certain.
Right.
But it became so abundant, the number of them, that for me, I set up a processes for, on Wednesdays, they're on my docket, on my separate docket, not with my main docket, but on a separate docket. The clerk's office, I work with the lead person on this, they come up with a docket, have it as my, we call it the 11 o'clock docket or the 10 o'clock docket, which is a separate docket from the main morning docket, to keep people from having to come in the building. I converted the indigency form to where it can have a notarized signature, because a notary is basically witnessing, just as a judge would witness someone in person, their income information that they're placing on there. And that was really during COVID time, and attorneys have utilized that, and they come in and they file the appropriate motion. We have the appropriate order. We look at the information, or sometimes we may even bring people in based on the amount of money they're asking to be relieved from. So that just doesn't go on just at those clinics. That goes on at my court and probably most of the courts on a monthly or weekly basis. We used to have a collection docket pre-pandemic, and what we had discovered that we had an order telling people to pay your fines. There's a lot of extra costs that's involved. And so because we had that, we implemented the collection docket, but COVID changed that. But the clinics, and the other piece I want to stress right now is about the voting, restoration of rights.
There you go.
This is the time to do it. It is the time to register. I think you have just a few more days to register to vote in the primary. It's a time to register to vote in the general election. If you are a felon, there is a process for getting your voting rights restored. It is a process. You have to follow the rules. It's been a lot in the press about it. When you plead to a felony, you are declared infamous. That means certain rights and privileges are removed. Firearms, voting, and different things are removed. Those matters are handled on the civil side in Chancery and in Circuit Court. Make the request, find out what you need to do, ask for counsel, go see some lawyers, go to legal services, go to the NAACP. They will get you on the right track. And votes, general election, primary I think is May 9th, May 3rd. But I do know the general is August 4th because I'm on the ballot August 4th.
So you guys aren't in the primary?
No,
you're
nonpartisan. Yes. And I'm Lois Lambert Ryan. I know our time is running low, but I'm Lois Lambert Ryan, and I'm your judge in General Sessions Division 15.
Oh, wow. And I was going to give you the opportunity.
But you know what?
I know George is George's standing there, but I was going to give you your opportunity. Tell these young people why they should vote for Lois Lambert Ryan.
I am a proven servant. I've been here trying to better the system, trying to give every man and every woman the opportunity for justice to be administered fairly and just. As I always tell people, justice is what the law dictates. fairness can be an individual perception. I stand in the middle of that gap trying to bring those two together for the citizenry, that you feel that the justice you receive is fair to you. And I think that's really, really important when you have your day in court. And just to say, this is not just about defendants. Victims are in court also. You have rights, and you shall also be obliged the opportunity to have your day in court. That's what the Constitution is about. That's what our system is about. And again, of course, I like your vote. I like your support. I've been there for 20 years trying to be your humble servant and to better everything in the criminal justice system.
Wow. I want to thank you so much, Judge Lois Lambert Ryan, Division 15, General Sessions, for just coming down. And you know what? And you're so down to earth, and I just love the fact that hour has flown by, and we just kind of chopped it up. And for those older people that don't know what chop it up is, we just had a conversation. We just kind of chopped it up, and it was so easy, and it just kind of flowed. And I really appreciate you availing yourself to the citizens of the city of Memphis and the citizens of Shelby County. This has been Memphis 360. I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in. Next Thursday, we're going to be moving to 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. We were actually supposed to move this week, but we adjusted it and came back to 5. But next week, for the rest of the summer, we're definitely going to be at 7 o'clock in the evening. So I want to thank you so much, and until next time, be blessed, be strong, be encouraged, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
It's Memphis 360. Man.
We're gonna make you fall in love with SVPTV.